Hey guys, welcome back to more homeowner association stories. In this video, I was living peacefully in the forest until the HOA police showed up. I'm not kidding, a neighboring community tried to bully me into submission using intimidation tactics, blocking my gate and threatening to arrest me on my own land. But they did not know that I was ready for them. And the HOA Reddit title story starts like this. Ever since I was a kid, I'd loved the idea of staying in a place surrounded by nature. I always romanticized the idea of living in a place with a lot of trees and grass, just far enough away from other people that I could feel some peace and quiet, but close enough where I was not totally alone. This was definitely cultivated by my grandparents. They used to live on a small farmstead that was surrounded by plains and small stretches of wood. Whenever my parents and I had the chance, we would visit them for a few days. We would spend even longer there if it was a holiday. Despite being born and raised in the city, I really loved it out there with them. I enjoyed spending time with my grandparents, of course, but I also liked interacting with all the animals and just being out and about in nature. There was just something peaceful and quiet about all of it. It was a big difference from the city, but that was the thing I loved about it. My grandma would teach me about plants. They grew vegetables on the farm, so she taught me about agriculture and when to plant certain crops as well as the specific environments that certain crops needed. But she also had a normal flower garden. She grew a bunch of roses and tulips, things like that. I learned how to take care of plants like that too. My grandfather would take me fishing and camping. There was a lake about an hour away, so oftentimes we would go fishing there for hours and then camp in the night. One of my fondest memories is singing a song with my grandpa while making s'mores over the campfire. On the farm they also had animals, nothing like cows, but smaller manageable items like some goats and chickens. They taught me how to take care of the animals and how to tell what an animal is feeling by just looking at it. In conclusion, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents and that made me really love and appreciate nature. As I've gotten older, I have less time to visit my grandparents, but love for nature still remains. I always knew that, and at the end of the day, I wanted to live surrounded by nature, so I saved up and used some of my inheritance from my grandfather, who sadly passed away a few years ago, to get a small cabin in a forest area. I like to say that I did it both for me and for my grandparents. My grandmother has visited a couple times and she absolutely loved the place. I'm lucky enough to have a remote job so I can stay in the cabin and use it as my actual home. Well, despite how it sounds though, I'm not in the middle of absolute nature. As much as I love nature, I'm 100% convinced there's something out there and I'm not willing to be the one to find out. As such, I do have neighbors. There are a few cities and towns maybe an hour or two away from me, and down the hill there's also a small community. At this point, I had not really looked much into the community or interacted with the people there. I only really pass through when I'm coming back from the city. All I know about it is that it's generally a safe community and it's under the jurisdiction of an HOA. It didn't really matter to me though, I mean after all, why would it? I just wanted to know what communities were close to me just in case something were to happen. Plus, rural areas can get a bit creepy at times, so better safe than sorry. I've been living here for 2 years now, and up until now I literally ran into zero issues. The trouble started this year, however, when I began receiving messages from the HOA of that community. I first started getting mail a few months ago. So this confused me since I knew I was not part of that community's HOA. I had never been part of an HOA, so it was not like I had any particularly bad experiences with them, outside of this one I guess, so I didn't want to be a part of one. But property taxes are expensive enough, and I didn't really see the need to pay extra money every month to an HOA. I made sure to ask the real estate agent about it, since I had researched the area beforehand. They reassured me that the cabin was not a part of the HOA's jurisdiction, and when I signed the property deed, it indicated that there was no connection to the HOA. So the first few times I saw the letters, I didn't really read the mail, assuming that it was just sent to the wrong person. After a few more times though, I started reading it, and they were mostly along the lines of missing my due payments or not attending mandatory meetings. Like I said, I thought it was just a mistake. But when I started reading the mail and looking at the address, I saw that the correct name and address was written there every single time. I was still thinking that some sort of mistake had been made though. Maybe I was part of the HOA on their record, even though I really wasn't, you know. I was going to contact the HOA about it since it was clear that they had made some kind of mistake and it was a waste for everyone to just sit around about it and not say anything. Just as I was going to contact them though, I was confronted by their patrol officers. The first time it happened, I was just relaxing in my living room when I heard the doorbell ring. I found this odd since I usually don't get visitors, and if I do, they would usually let me know if they were coming over a week or so in advance. I looked through the peephole to investigate and saw two uniformed men standing there. I immediately assumed they were cops, but I didn't see any flashing lights and their cars looked like normal cars rather than police cruisers. The peephole didn't really give me a good look at their uniforms though, so I couldn't really be sure. I was just gonna leave them alone, but then they rang the doorbell again, so I just decided to open the door and ask if I could help them. They explained that they were sent on behalf of the HOA and were here to give me a stern warning about missing my payments and the mandatory meetings. At the moment I was relieved because I figured that I could just try explaining how I believed that some sort of mistake had been made. But I couldn't have been more wrong. I explained to them that I assumed there was a mistake because I knew I had no involvement with the HOA. But the minute I contradicted them, they became extremely stubborn and verbally aggressive with me. They insisted that they were absolutely sure that I was part of the HOA and that I was clearly making up excuses to avoid getting in trouble. I told them that I was doing no such thing and that they were being unreasonable by refusing to hear me out. We argued for a bit longer before they finally got fed up and decided to leave me alone. Still, it was not the end of it. They continued sending me mail, which grew to be more passive-aggressive, and then a few weeks later I was visited by the HOA president herself. She came with those same two uniformed jerks, looking very smug and cocky. I also noticed their uniforms said HOA officer and HOA patrol on the side. Despite how annoyed I was by everything going on, I tried to act very polite and asked her what she was doing here. She introduced herself as Karen, the HOA president, and that she wanted to check in on me. For some reason, any of the politeness that I intended to use immediately flew out the window when she started speaking. So instead I got petty. I said, "Oh, so you're the one who has been sending me all these annoying letters?" That changed her demeanor pretty fast, but honestly, I didn't really care. I knew that personality of hers was all fake anyway. She said very proudly that she was, and that I had no right to act like that with her, because she was the president and I had to do as she said. I told her that I was sorry, but that I wasn't appreciative of her harassing me with her letters and with her patrol officers. I told her what I told her officers, that I was not part of the HOA and they had to stop harassing me. Karen said that I couldn't tell her what to do and that as president she could do as she pleases. She insisted that the house was under the HOA's jurisdiction. And by the way guys, if such an awful entitled Karen confronted you, what would you have done in OP's situation? That is seriously a nightmare of an HOA Karen. And by the way, while you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments because that would help me tremendously. So I tried arguing that when I bought the house I didn't see such a thing and that the deed explicitly stated I was not part of the HOA. She said, "Maybe when you first bought the cabin, it was not part of the HOA, but things have changed. It's now under our jurisdiction." I called out her bluff and told her to show me where it said that the cabin was part of the HOA, saying that I would 100% join the HOA if that were the case. But of course, Karen could produce nothing. Karen left and gave me what she deemed as one last threat, saying that she would be forced to take drastic measures if I kept ignoring her warnings. From then on, her officers kept on bothering me even more. I don't leave my cabin often, but I do when I need to buy groceries or when I'm visiting my family, and one day I left early in the morning to go into town and grab some more groceries. When I came back, I saw the officers pass my front gate waiting for me. I was trying to ignore them and get back into my house, but they physically got in my way. It became very frustrating, and it took every bit of me not to start a fight. It took me threatening to call the cops for them to finally leave. At this point, I had finally had enough, so I decided to contact my attorney about it. And by the way guys, if you had a bunch of HOA officers that are pretending to be enforcement police essentially, constantly trespassing on your property, what would you do? Let me know in the comments. We reviewed all my information and the HOA policies and concluded the HOA had no jurisdiction over me and had no right to harass me since my property was explicitly stated to not be a part of the HOA community. We decided that I would call for a cease and desist order to stop the HOA from harassing me. Armed with that, I felt better about approaching this whole situation already. Just to be safe, I asked my attorney about the HOA officers and whether or not they had any real grounds to arrest me, and she said they couldn't because they were not actual law enforcement and that they were more likely just guys hired to mess around with people and get the HOA its dues. Sounds like a mafia if you ask me, but maybe that's just me. It's a good thing that I asked too, because of course those stupid officers had to come back again. It was around night time when this happened, which made everything a little more scary. They were more aggressive than they had been the other times, and right from the get-go they were pounding on my door, shouting, demanding that I open up. I only opened it to yell at them. I told them to get off my property since I knew they were just gonna do their same old spiel. I closed the door on them, but that didn't stop them. I don't know why they were so physically aggressive that day, but the officers were shouting at me that they were gonna arrest me if I didn't comply with their orders. They started pulling on my door and trying to force it open. It was clear that they were not gonna back off and that they genuinely wanted to terrorize me or get in my house. I had enough, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I grabbed my shotgun off the wall and opened the door. I didn't point it at them or anything, but I held it in my hand as I said they had to get off my property or else I would be forced to take drastic measures, using their words against them. I know they were not really police officers, so they couldn't arrest me or harm me other than physically fight with me, and they obviously wouldn't do that when I had a gun in my hand. Seeing the shotgun, they immediately apologized, which I was surprised about, and left. And damn guys, I'm surprised. That's actually an interesting way to get an apology out of an HOA. Maybe OP unlocked the secret here or something. Either way, after that they didn't visit me again. I was able to finish up my cease and desist letter and I sent it off to the HOA. I decided to report the HOA to the police too, since their harassment carried on for months and bordered on physical violence, especially with that last incident, and I told them that I didn't want anyone to be charged or arrested, I just wanted them to stop. The police agreed and informed me that they would send the sheriff over to talk to them. And well, since then, the HOA hasn't contacted me at all, I've not seen a single officer, and I've not received a single piece of mail. I didn't receive an apology either, but as long as they leave me alone, I don't care. Thinking back, I don't really know why they wanted control of me so bad. They probably just wanted extra money in their pockets and thought that I would be an easy pick. Too bad for them, still it was weird since this hadn't been a problem before. Maybe they were getting too greedy, or maybe they got new board members who wanted to see just how far they could push their power. Either way, I'm glad that situation is dealt with now. Honestly, during the whole fiasco, I was debating if I should move into a different place just because of how stressful everything was getting. I did not want to be living in such a negative environment, especially when it was next to a community that was sort of out to get me. Then again, I put my hard-earned money into this place, and in a way, this place is my grandparents too. They would have to fight me for it if they think that their shenanigans can take it away from me. And the next one is a really unique malicious compliance story, which is titled, "I cannot get a refund on my escape room?" Okay, let me reschedule then. So this might be a rarity for this sub, as I am the one who had the malicious compliance done to by someone else, but I had to respect it and thought it was worthy for this subreddit. So for context, I own an escape room company in a town which borders a pretty touristy area and is very close to an airport. As such, we tend to get a lot of bookings from people all over the UK who are visiting the area for the weekend or international people coming to do an escape room on the way to the airport. We only take online bookings and don't take walk-ins, and therefore the site is only really manned whenever we have bookings. As such, our cancellation policy is that we only allow refunds if the cancellation is more than 24 hours before the scheduled start time. If it is 2 to 24 hours before the start time, we can only reschedule the booking. Now, it's worth mentioning that for the majority of cases, weekdays, we are pretty relaxed with our policy, as long as it doesn't cause any big issues, and try our best to accommodate a group, as usually I'm the one hosting them, so there's not any additional expenses on our part, in other words staff wages, loss of income from other potential customers, and so on. However, the only day where this policy is really relevant is on Saturday, where we are almost always entirely booked from morning to night and have staff members working for us. So any cancelled slots would most likely have been filled by other customers, and we are of course still paying our staff for that time, although I must say, we have only ever had to enforce this policy a couple of times, as we are usually able to accommodate a group in some shape or form. Now onto the malicious compliance. So I get a call earlier today from a gentleman with a thick Scottish accent that was rescheduled to come in with his group in around 2.5 hours from the time of the call. The group said they would be unable to make their booking as they were running late with some other activities or something like that, and asked to reschedule the booking for a later slot. I checked our schedule, but didn't have any slots left for today in any of our rooms. He then asked for a refund as they would be returning to Glasgow tonight and didn't know when they would be next down here. I told him our policy and that our system only allows reschedules instead of refunds due to time frame, and explained that given it's a Saturday, we cannot refund so close to the time as staff has already been arranged, slot would have been booked, etc. Rescheduling wouldn't have worked for them as they would not be in the area anytime soon. After a short pause, he asked if we had any free slots to schedule for next month. I checked the system and offered to move the booking to the same time on 16th November, to which he said, yeah, I think that works. I changed the time on the system and informed him he would get an email confirming the new time slot. He replied, great, so the booking is more than 24 hours away now, right? Me, yeah, it's booked in for 4 weeks time from today. Him, right, so the booking is more than 24 hours away, I won't be able to make it. Can I have a refund? I paused for a second trying to process what had just happened in my head and realized that he had found a loophole in the system. Technically, his booking was more than 24 hours away, so he's technically entitled to a refund. I started laughing and congratulated him on beating the system as I processed his refund. Edit, I didn't think this would get so much attention, but might as well clarify a few things which came up in the comments. Number one, as I said, these situations are very rare, so that it's never really come up often enough to become a big issue, as most groups are fine just to reschedule another day, and we like to accommodate for groups as best we can. Perhaps if it does become more common, we will look into it, but in the past 2 years we've been open, I can probably only count on one hand how many times it's happened. Number two, this is a common malicious compliance usually done with hotels and doctors, etc., which is why I recognized it as malicious compliance straight away and thought it would fit here. Number three, obviously what I've posted is just the bare bones of the conversation. There was actually a bit of bantering back and forth, which is why I didn't mind as much issuing the refund, as he seemed like a nice guy. It goes to show if you're a nice person, you might be more likely to get the rules bent for you than if you are a complete Karen. Plus, chances are, next time he's this way, he will make another booking down the line because of this interaction. This is why I didn't think he was being cheeky or something by cancelling straight after rescheduling. Also, yeah, people do come to an escape room on their way to the airport. Suppose it's a way of squeezing in a bit more entertainment into your holiday. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. This story is from r/legal advice. So I, 38 male, own a small organic grocery store called Fresh and Local Market in downtown XYZ. We've been operating for about 4 years now, and things have been going really well. We work directly with local farmers, have a rooftop garden where we grow some of our own produce, and run weekly cooking classes. The community has been incredibly supportive, and we have built up a loyal customer base. The problem is my neighbor, Karen, mid-50s, who owns Business XYZ, one of those dying overpriced grocery stores about 3 blocks away. She's been giving me grief ever since I opened, claiming that I am stealing her customers. Look, I get that competition can be tough, but I'm just trying to run my business here. Her store honestly is not doing great, the produce is often wilted, the shelves are disorganized, and their prices are actually higher than ours for lower quality stuff. This morning I arrived at 6 AM to prep for our morning delivery, and there was a massive semi-truck completely blocking both our main entrance and the loading dock. No company markings, no delivery notice, just nothing. It was strategically parked to make it impossible for customers to get in or for our produce delivery to arrive. I immediately recognized it as one of Karen's delivery trucks. She got a small fleet for her store. I tried calling her multiple times, but she wouldn't pick up. Finally, I walked over to her store to confront her. The conversation went something like this. Me, Karen, you need to move your truck right now. You're blocking my business illegally. Karen with this smug smile. Oh, am I? That's funny because I don't see any no parking signs there. Maybe if you were not stealing all my customers, I wouldn't need to park there. Me, this is not a game. You're preventing my deliveries and customers from accessing my store. I will have to call the police and have it towed. Karen, go ahead. My brother-in-law's on the city council. Nothing will happen. Maybe this will teach you to stop undermining established businesses in this town. I took photos and videos of everything, the truck's position, my conversation with Karen, timestamps of my calls to her. I've already lost this morning's delivery of fresh produce. They had to return to the farm, and I've had multiple customers turn away because they couldn't park. What are my legal options here? I know I can call a tow company, but I want to make sure I'm covering all my bases legally. She has cost me thousands and lost business today alone, and I'm worried she'll try something like this again if I don't handle it properly. And yeah guys, if you have any advice for OP, let me know what you would do in this situation. I'm really curious. Either way, one comment said, former property manager here, call the police and non-emergency line and a towing company immediately. The truck is illegally blocking access to your business and loading dock. Also take photos of everything and document all losses, turned away deliveries, customers who couldn't access your store, etc. and save any security camera footage you have. You will want this documentation for both insurance and potential legal action. Comment number 2 said, LOL, just slash her tires, that will teach her. And well guys, indeed that would teach her, but then again that would open OP up to potential issues with the police. Comment number 3, NAL, aka not a lawyer, but a business owner. File a police report immediately. What she is doing could constitute tortious interference with business relations. Or tortious, I'm not sure. Either way, document everything, all losses, customer complaints, delivery issues, and keep the communication with her in writing going forward. You might have a solid civil case here. Comment number 4, from experience working with city planning, most areas have specific regulations about blocking loading docks. Check your local ordinances, and also, if she admitted to deliberately blocking your business, that's a whole different legal issue than just illegal parking. Comment number 5, bro, just tow it, why are you even asking Reddit? And he is kind of right there. Either way, comment number 6, lawyer here, you need to call the police, file a report, have it towed legally through a licensed company, document all losses, and send her a certified letter demanding that she cease and desist this behavior. Also consider filing for a temporary restraining order if this is part of a pattern of harassment. This is not just about today's incident, you are establishing a paper trail for what could become a larger legal issue. Comment number 7, have you tried talking to her boss? Corporate might want to know how their franchise owner is behaving. Comment number 1 said, thanks for all the advice everyone. I called the police, non-emergency line and a towing company. While waiting, I documented everything and started calculating losses. The police arrived first and confirmed the truck was illegally parked and blocking a business entrance and loading dock. Here's where it gets better though. Karen showed up just as the tow truck was getting into position. She started screaming about how she would sue everyone involved. The police officer, bless him, just calmly informed her that she was breaking multiple ordinances and could either move the truck immediately or have it towed at her expense. She refused to move it, claiming that she lost the keys. The officer was not having it though and authorized the tow. The whole time, Karen was recording on her phone and threatening to call her lawyer, but now she is escalating. She has posted negative reviews about my store online, and I've heard from other business owners that she is trying to organize a boycott. She has also parked her personal vehicle in front of my store twice today, though in legal spots, and taken photos of customers entering my store. Should I pursue legal action beyond the towing incident? She is now actively trying to damage my business's reputation. I've saved screenshots of everything, by the way. She is now moved from simple interference to harassment and potential defamation. Save those screenshots and start keeping a detailed log of every incident. Comment number 2, business lawyer here. What she is doing now is actually worse legally speaking than the truck incident. She is demonstrating a pattern of intentional interference with your business. Save all evidence of her attempted boycott and false reviews. If you got security cameras, save the footage of her photographing your customers. That could be interpreted as customer harassment too. Comment number 3, it sounds like someone needs a restraining order. Comment number 4, the fact that she's doubling down after police involvement is concerning. Consider sending a cease and desist through a lawyer. The letter itself might not have legal weight, but it shows that you are serious and creates a paper trail. Update number 2, thank you for the advice. It's been 3 weeks and I wanted to update everyone on how this situation got resolved. So following your suggestions, I hired a business attorney who specialized in commercial disputes, had them send a formal cease and desist letter regarding both the harassment and false reviews, and filed for a temporary restraining order based on the pattern of harassment. kept meticulous records of all interactions and losses, and the cease and desist letter really got her attention, especially when my lawyer included documentation of all her actions and the potential legal consequences. We also included an itemized list of damages from the truck incident, lost deliveries, customer receipts from the same day last week, showing lost business, etc., but Karen decided to ignore the letter. Not only that, but she doubled down and started telling people that I was threatening her. She even called the health department on us for a surprise inspection, which we passed with flying colors, by the way. Our rooftop garden actually impressed the inspector. Here is where karma kicked in. Remember that city council brother-in-law she bragged about? Well, it turns out he's no longer on the council, and the current members were very interested in hearing about a local business owner using semi-trucks to deliberately block competitors. The city got involved after multiple complaints. It turns out we were not the only business she had harassed, just the most recent, and they then launched an investigation into her store's compliance with various ordinances. Suddenly, Karen had bigger problems than my successful business. Her store had multiple violations that would require expensive repairs to fix. The final straw was when she tried to claim in her online posts that our produce was unsafe and illegally sourced. My lawyer said this was textbook defamation per se, since it was attacking our business practices with provably false statements, so we filed a defamation lawsuit. Karen finally broke when her own corporate headquarters got wind of everything, thanks to the user who suggested contacting them. They were not happy about the potential liability and negative publicity, so they gave her an ultimatum. Either sell her franchise or they would terminate her contract. So then she is now selling her store to another franchisee. The new owners seem much more professional and have already reached out to discuss ways we can coexist as businesses. They are planning to focus more on bulk and conventional groceries while respecting our niche in organic and local produce. As for the legal side, we settled out of court. The terms are confidential, but let's just say it covered all our losses and legal fees. She has also had to publish a retraction of her false statements and remove all negative reviews. The best part though? Our business is doing better than ever. The community really rallied around us during all this, and we have gained quite a few loyal customers. We are even expanding our rooftop garden and adding more cooking classes to meet the demand. Thanks again for all the advice. Sometimes standing up to bullies really does work out in the end. And the next one is a beautiful petty revenge story that is titled "Roommate was stealing my marked leftovers, made a chocolate cake with habanero peppers and labeled it with my name and wrecked his world." So my old college roommate didn't know how to cook or do dishes and didn't go food shopping much. This led to him eating my food, especially my leftovers, as those were prepared meals. I would use my leftovers to meal prep for the week and told him to stop, as it was expensive as well as inconvenient. Well, unfortunately, the behavior didn't stop and he actually seemed to be eating more of my food out of spite. To punish him, I baked a chocolate cake with habanero peppers and mixed the frosting with wasabi. I labeled it with my name and a bold "Do not eat," and waited. This guy has a very low tolerance for spicy foods, so I thought he would take one bite, quickly realize the error of his ways. Well, about 2 days later, him and a couple of his friends got really drunk while I was at work and decided to dig into my food. Somehow, they ate about a third of it before realizing, and when they inevitably went to throw up from overdrinking and eating spicy foods, got hit by the cake a second time. I don't know for sure, but it couldn't have felt good coming out of the back end. When he asked me why I made this monstrosity, I told him I found a chocolate habanero recipe online that I wanted to try. He stopped eating my cooking after that. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.